Have you ever found yourself wondering if a man is interested in you because you're unsure whether it's just friendship or something more? When you're over 60, love can look a little different, but the signs are just as clear. Some things never change, and their flirty behaviors are one of them. I'm Vernon, and in today's video, we're diving into 5 subtle yet telling behaviors that reveal when a man is into you, even if he tries to hide it. From small gestures to body language, these signs speak louder than words. Whether you're dating again or simply navigating friendships, understanding these signals will give you a better sense of where you stand. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more helpful tips like this. So, if you're ready to spot these flirty cues and decode the actions behind them, stick with me as we uncover what men over 60 can't hide when they're truly interested.
Behavior 1. The attentive presence. When a man in his later years develops romantic interest, his attention becomes a compass that invariably points in one direction, toward the object of his affection. This attentiveness manifests not in grand gestures, but in the subtle art of truly being present with you. A presence that feels distinctly different from casual social interaction. Consider the way water carves channels into stone, not through force, but through persistent, gentle attention over time. Similarly, the interested man over 60 often reveals himself through the consistency of his focus. He listens not merely to respond, but to understand. He remembers details about your life, your preferences, your history that you mentioned perhaps only once in passing. My colleague Elizabeth recently described her experience with Robert, a gentleman she met at a community orchestra event. What surprised me most wasn't that he asked for my number. It was that 3 weeks later he referred to a comment I had made about my grandmother's porcelain collection. I barely remembered mentioning it myself. This wasn't simple politeness, it was the hallmark of someone who had truly listened, because something about her had captured his interest beyond the ordinary. Research from relationship psychologists supports this observation. A 2024 study published in the Journal of Social Psychology found that selective detailed memory, remembering specific information about one person while forgetting similar details about others, strongly correlates with romantic attraction, regardless of age. The researchers noted this effect was particularly pronounced in men over 60 who tended to be more economical with their attention in general social settings. What makes this behavior so revealing is its involuntary nature. A man might consciously decide to send flowers or pay compliments, but this quality of attention occurs naturally when genuine interest exists. It's as though the mind automatically creates more space for information about someone who has awakened deeper feelings, like a gardener who notices every new bud on a favored plant while glancing only briefly at others. This quality of attention extends beyond memory to encompass how he listens when you speak. You might notice that he maintains comfortable eye contact, that he doesn't interrupt, that he asks thoughtful follow-up questions that build upon what you've shared, rather than redirecting conversation to himself. In group settings, he might seem to be participating generally while actually orienting his responses and energy toward you, a subtle gravitation that speaks volumes about his interest. While attentiveness is often the first sign of genuine interest, it's not the only behavior that reveals a man's deeper feelings. The next sign is a bit more subtle, but it's equally telling. His actions will follow his attention, guiding the relationship in ways you might not even notice at first.
Behavior 2. Thoughtful gestures in motion. This behavior emerges not through words, but through actions, specifically through thoughtful gestures that might seem small, but carry deeper significance. For men of our generation, doing rather than saying often represents the most authentic expression of interest and care. Aristotle observed that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Similarly, a man's consistent small kindnesses reveal more about his feelings than occasional grand displays. These gestures might appear as simple courtesy to the untrained eye, but their pattern and persistence tell a different story. Recently, I'm interested in a woman from his hiking group. I rarely verbalized my feelings directly, but my behavior spoke clearly. I began carrying an extra walking stick that was lighter and better suited to her height. I researched and pointed out bird species I knew she enjoyed during our walks. I would position myself on the more challenging side of the trail when we encountered difficult terrain, not in a controlling manner, but with subtle protective awareness. I wasn't even sure I was doing anything special. These things just seemed necessary. These thoughtful gestures typically share three qualities. They're consistent rather than sporadic, they're specific to your needs or preferences rather than generic, and they often involve some degree of effort or planning that wouldn't be extended to just anyone. You might notice him bringing an extra cushion to a hard-seated venue because he remembered your comment about discomfort at the last concert. He might offer to drive during inclement weather, not because he doubts your capability, but because he wants to ease your burden. He might share an article related to your interests, offer to help with a practical problem you mentioned in passing, or position himself to open doors not from outdated chivalry, but from attentive consideration. For men who came of age in eras where emotional expressiveness wasn't encouraged, these behaviors become their emotional vocabulary, a way to demonstrate care without the vulnerability of explicit declaration. One effective way to nurture this type of connection is by acknowledging these small gestures with gratitude. When a man consistently goes out of his way to make you feel comfortable, responding with appreciation helps reinforce his actions and deepens the emotional bond. A simple thank you or a smile can go a long way in letting him know you value the thoughtfulness behind his actions. Another key approach is to recognize these gestures as his unique form of communication. While some men may be more verbal about their feelings, others may express themselves through actions. Understanding this can help you appreciate the quiet, consistent care that often accompanies these behaviors, making it easier to build a strong, trust-filled connection. Lastly, if you're unsure of his intentions, mirroring his thoughtful gestures can create a balance in the relationship. Small acts of kindness on your part can show him that you recognize his efforts and are equally invested in showing care and affection. As you move through your daily interactions, don't hesitate to notice not just what men say to you, but what they consistently do. Have you noticed these small but meaningful gestures from someone? How did they make you feel? Share your thoughts in the comments below. It could help others recognize similar behaviors in their relationships. These thoughtful gestures are a powerful sign of affection, but there's another behavior that reveals even deeper layers of connection.
We'll explore how his ability to make you feel emotionally safe can further demonstrate his true intentions.
Behavior 3. The language of humor and playfulness. Plato wrote that even the gods love jokes, understanding that humor creates a special intimacy between people. For men over 60, humor becomes not just entertainment, but a bridge, a way to establish connection while maintaining the dignity that matters deeply to this generation. While men of all ages might use humor when flirting, the way it manifests after 60 has distinctive qualities that, once recognized, become unmistakable signs of interest. You might notice that a man who is interested in you develops what I call a private humor landscape. Shared jokes, references, or playful exchanges that create a world of meaning between just the two of you. This isn't merely being funny in a general sense. It's humor that's calibrated specifically to your relationship and your particular sensibilities. Another aspect of humor that reveals genuine interest is his attentiveness to your reaction. A man who is romantically interested in you will be deeply tuned into what makes you laugh and will adjust his approach accordingly. It's not just about telling jokes, but about carefully observing your responses to see what resonates with you. He remembers the things that amused you in the past, using those cues to tailor his humor in a way that feels both familiar and new. This creates a continuity in your interactions. He's not just trying to make you laugh for the moment, he's learning what brings you joy and building upon it. These small, thoughtful adjustments show his engagement and attentiveness, reinforcing the emotional connection between you. Beyond jokes, you might notice playfulness emerging in unexpected ways. Perhaps he adopts a slightly theatrical manner when telling you stories, or creates small rituals around ordinary interactions, or engages in gentle teasing that feels warming rather than diminishing. These playful behaviors often represent a man's attempt to bring lightness and joy into your connection, a gift of positive emotion that signals his desire for your happiness. Show that you appreciate his wit and playful behavior by laughing, sharing your own jokes, or joining in on the playful exchanges. This creates a reciprocal dynamic where both of you enjoy the humor together, deepening your connection. Another helpful approach is to observe how humor plays a role in your relationship. If you notice that his jokes and playful behavior bring you closer, it's a good idea to encourage more of these moments. Acknowledging the shared humor and even expanding on it can strengthen the emotional bond and keep the playful energy flowing between you. As the philosopher Henri Bergson noted, laughter is the corrective force which prevents us from becoming cranks and fanatics. In the context of emerging attraction, humor becomes something more, a gentle pathway toward intimacy, created one shared smile at a time, which we will explore in the next part right now. Behavior 4. Creating opportunities for connection. When a man over 60 is interested in you romantically, he finds ways to be where you are. Unlike younger men who might declare their interest directly, mature men often express interest through orchestrating what appear to be casual encounters, creating pathways for connection with a subtlety that can sometimes make their intentions difficult to discern. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus observed that no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. Yet when a man is drawn to you, he will seemingly defy this principle, consistently finding ways to step into the flowing river of your life, not by chance, but by design. You might notice that he rearranges his schedule to attend events where you'll be present. Perhaps he joins groups or activities you've mentioned enjoying. He might offer assistance with projects or suggest shared experiences that naturally extend your time together. These aren't coincidences. They represent deliberate choices to intersect his life with yours. My friend Lawrence, a retired accountant, became interested in Catherine after meeting her at a community garden event. Though gardening had never before been his passion, he suddenly found compelling reasons to improve his horticultural skills, volunteering for committees she chaired, asking questions that necessitated her expertise, even planting vegetables similar to hers so they could compare notes. "I suppose I wasn't being very subtle," Lawrence later admitted with a chuckle, "but at our age, time feels too precious to leave things entirely to chance." This sentiment reflects a common pattern. Men over 60 often feel a heightened awareness of life's finite nature, which paradoxically makes them both more careful and more intentional about pursuing meaningful connections. What distinguishes this behavior from ordinary friendliness is its consistency and progression. A friendly acquaintance might occasionally adjust their plans to include you. A romantically interested man creates a pattern of presence in your life. This pattern typically evolves over time, beginning with coincidental-seeming encounters in group settings and gradually shifting toward opportunities for more personal interaction. This creation of opportunities often has a thoughtful quality that distinguishes it from mere pursuit. The interested man doesn't simply manufacture reasons to see you, he creates contexts where meaningful exchange can occur. Settings where you can talk comfortably, share experiences, or discover more about each other's values and perspectives. Psychologists refer to this as staged spontaneity, encounters that appear coincidental but actually involve planning and intention. For men over 60, who often value dignity and reciprocity in relationships, this approach allows interest to be expressed without creating pressure or discomfort. It offers you the space to respond according to your own feelings, maintaining everyone's sense of autonomy. As you move through your daily life, consider whether someone seems to be creating these pathways toward connection with you. What small gestures or actions have made you feel connected in unexpected ways? Comment below and let us know. And don't forget to save this video so you can refer back to these signs as you recognize them in your own life. He intuitively understands this truth and works to create the meetings where real living and perhaps new love might begin. While creating opportunities for connection is a powerful sign of interest, there's another behavior that speaks volumes about how deeply someone may care. Now we dive into the ways he'll make you feel truly valued in the smallest and most meaningful of ways.
Behavior 5. The vulnerable self revealed. Perhaps this most significant behavior involves a subtle but profound shift, when a man begins sharing aspects of himself that he typically keeps private. For men of our generation, emotional disclosure represents a particularly meaningful signal of interest, as many were raised in eras when vulnerability was equated with weakness rather than courage. You might notice that a man who is interested in you begins sharing personal stories, not just anecdotes he tells at every gathering, but meaningful experiences that shaped his values or changed his perspective. Perhaps he discusses hopes or concerns for the future, reveals aspects of his relationship with family members, or expresses doubts and uncertainties that wouldn't be shared in casual conversation. My cousin William, a retired surgeon who had always maintained a certain professional distance in his interactions, surprised himself by opening up to Eleanor during their weekly walks. I found myself telling her about my childhood struggles with dyslexia, he told me later. It was something I rarely discussed. It felt too much like admitting a deficiency. But somehow, with her, I wanted to be known more completely. This desire to be known, to be seen beyond surface accomplishments or social roles, often signals a deeper interest. Research from relationship psychology indicates that self-disclosure functions as both a sign of existing trust and a way of creating greater intimacy. When a man chooses you as the recipient of personal revelations, he's often indicating, whether consciously or not, that your opinion and understanding matter particularly to him. What makes this behavior especially revealing is the emotional risk it represents. Many men over 60 grew up in environments where emotional expression was limited or discouraged. Sharing vulnerable aspects of themselves requires overcoming decades of conditioning, which typically happens only when the potential reward, deeper connection with someone special, outweighs the perceived risk. Beyond personal history or emotions, you might notice he begins sharing his genuine thoughts on meaningful subjects, moving beyond safe topics to express perspectives that matter deeply to him. This intellectual intimacy often precedes more explicit expressions of interest, as it allows him to gauge your compatibility on levels beyond the purely social or practical. By gradually increasing vulnerability, both parties can assess emotional safety and resonance before more explicit expressions of interest raise the relationship stakes. What distinguishes this behavior from ordinary friendship is often its exclusivity and depth. While friends certainly share personal information, there's a typically different quality when romantic interest is present. A particular attention to your response, a desire for your understanding specifically, and often a noticeable increase in the personal significance of what's being shared. As you engage with men in your social circles, notice who seems to be inviting you into their inner world. Is someone sharing thoughts, feelings, or experiences with you that seem specially selected or particularly revealing? Does the conversation shift to deeper topics when you're alone together? Does he seem attentive to how you receive these more personal disclosures? These patterns often indicate that you've become important to him in ways that transcend ordinary social connection. The philosopher Immanuel Kant observed that we are rich by what we possess, but by what we can do without. In a similar way, emotional intimacy isn't measured by how much is said, but by how much of what matters is shared. Those essential truths we could choose to keep hidden, but instead offer as a gift of trust to someone who has become significant in our hearts.
We've journeyed through 5 revealing behaviors that often signal romantic interest from men in their later years. The quality of attentive presence that creates a special space for you in their awareness. Thoughtful gestures that anticipate needs and offer practical care. The unique humor and playfulness that creates a private world of shared joy. The creation of opportunities for connection that weave your lives together, and the vulnerable self revealed through meaningful disclosure. Each of these represents not just a behavior, but a gift, an offering of genuine interest that deserves thoughtful recognition. What makes these signals particularly valuable is their authenticity.
By our stage of life, most of us have outgrown the games and posturing that sometimes characterized younger courtship. The interest expressed by a man over 60 typically comes from a place of genuine appreciation rather than momentary impulse or social expectation. As Aristotle might have observed, it arises from seeing and valuing the essential nature of another person, not merely their external qualities. As you move forward from our conversation today, observe the men in your life with fresh eyes, attentive to these subtle signals that might indicate deeper interest. Remember that for many men of our generation, these behaviors represent significant emotional investment, even when direct words of interest remain unspoken. Whether you're currently noticing these signs from someone special, hoping to recognize them in the future, or simply appreciating the wisdom of understanding human connection more deeply, remember that the capacity for love and attraction doesn't diminish with age. It matures, like fine wine, developing complexity and depth with the passing years. I hope you like and share this video with others who might find it useful. Subscribe to the channel and make sure to turn on notifications so you can stay up to date with more insightful content on love and relationships at any age. Comment below with your thoughts or experiences. I'd love to hear how these behaviors show up in your own life. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of love's subtle language after 60.